This is probably BioWare's last chance at making sure their company stays solvent. They had two massive flops back to back, and they need to come out with a banger. But today, we're going to talk about something that I've been seeing online, and that Dragon Age Veilguard is a contender for Game of the Year. So I want to talk about the problems that the game has, what it has to overcome, and could it potentially do that with some of the other games that have come out this year? And to be perfectly honest, I don't know. And that's why we're here today. All right, so if you guys have been keeping track, Dragon Age The Veilguard is all over the webs right now. Not as much as Ubisoft. Ubisoft is all over the web for various other reasons. But Dragon Age The Veilguard releases at the end of this month, and it has been, 6 or 8 years since the last Dragon Age game? And BioWare needs a win here. And I've been seeing rumblings online about it potentially being the Game of the Year, but the problem is it's starting on its back foot. It basically needs to come out swinging. Now, here are the problems that it's facing. The first one was that first trailer that released was absolutely abysmal. It did not look like a Dragon Age game at all. Supposedly, from what I have heard from larger streamers who have talked with people who work in BioWare, is that even the BioWare team didn't want that to go out. They didn't think that the marketing team did their job well on that one, and so they had to quickly recover from that. Immediately, you started seeing people say, this doesn't look like a Dragon Age game. What in the world are they doing? This doesn't look like Dragon Age. This doesn't feel like Dragon Age. And after talking with some friends of mine who've played all of the Dragon Age games, I'm playing through Origins right now on my own time when I have free time. And a few of my friends are like, yeah, Dragon Age has never really had a consistent look. They've always kind of tweaked designs. They've always kind of done something different. But one thing that was pointed out in a video that I was watching of somebody who got that early access to play the game a little while back when BioWare invited a bunch of people out, he's just like, yeah, it basically looks like Pixar animation. And I think that sums this up, is everything just looks airbrushed to hell. This game just doesn't look or feel like dark fantasy from the images that you see. The next thing outside of the art style that they have to overcome is the new combat system. A lot of people played the Dragon Age games because, well, they really like CRPGs like that. You sit down and you make your choices and you have your characters do those actions, and you were able to use the tactics system in the older games, and that tactics system allowed you to kind of tell your party how they needed to function, so that way you could get an optimized party out there functioning. Now, there is still some of that in Dragon Age The Veilguard from what I'm hearing, but ultimately, the thing that I've heard is they went for more of this stylized action RPG type of combat system where people have said it's closer to like God of War, or the newer God of Wars anyway, which is another thing that I think classic fans of the franchise that I've talked to have said, that's not why we like this. That's not why we like this game. We don't need to go high action-packed combat. We need it to be Dragon Age. So there's already 2 points right there where this thing is definitely getting knocked down a peg. The next thing that's getting it knocked down a peg by a lot is the political stuff that they've put into this. Obviously, BioWare and every company out there right now is injecting a level of politics. Specifically, one of the things that was in there for what people would call virtue signaling was a thing called top surgery scars. Now, that is something that for a player like me, I don't want any of that in the games that I play. So right there, guys like me are already out. I was even thinking of maybe picking this up. It's actually why I started playing through Dragon Age Origins. I kind of missed that whole phase in my life because I was, I had a girlfriend at the time, and then we were having kids, and now we're married, and so I missed out on a lot back in the day, okay? Let's not pretend like I've been around the whole time. I'm just getting back to it now in my 30s because I can. But that's one of the things that when you look at it, how divided, especially everybody is in the culture war, people see that and they go, nah, I'm out. I'm done. I already, a lot of people are like, look, I already didn't like the art style and the direction and the combat, but I was willing to give it a review. After seeing that they're doing the pandering, I'm done. I'm out. So they've already lost a certain player base right there. That's definitely not going to go out and definitely not going to purchase their game. These are massive, massive things. They say that they were doing this game. They wanted it to be a game for for the Dragon Age fans that have been there, and then for new fans to bring in new people. And every time that happens, it just doesn't seem like it hits. I can't think of a game. If you know of one that worked, let me know. But it seems like every time companies try to make a game that's for the old fans, but we want to bring in new fans, and they try to do stuff, it just betrays what the old fans want. And a lot of them do bow out. Not all of them, that would be stupid to say, but a lot of them. Now, there are a couple things here that I've noticed. If you go over to the Steam charts, you're going to notice on the Steam charts, it's actually been climbing up in the pre-order sales on Steam the last week or so, or few days. Checked it out earlier today. It was in close-ish to the top 60, I think, on Steam, which is, fairly decent if you ask me. It's in the top 100 of games that are being purchased right now, although there are other games out there that are absolutely beating it. The other thing that is going for it is they're releasing it for $59.99. Instead of going with what a lot of the industry has been pushing for, which is that the $69.99 price tag, they're actually going for a $59.99 price tag. Basically saying, look, it's Dragon Age. Here's the game. We're offering it at this price. We think you guys will enjoy it. That's actually a bonus in its cap. That's a little feather it can put in the cap. Now, talking about it being the game of the year, that's where we start to get into a lot of how the game of the year stuff works. Oftentimes, in recent memory, certain games have been included in the game of the year running and not included in the game of the year running simply based off of how the people who put together the games of the year feel. For instance, even though the highest selling game of 2023 was the Hogwarts game, it was it wasn't even considered for game of the year. Now, don't get me wrong, that game, we have it here at the house. If you're a Harry Potter fan, like a big Harry Potter, I watch the movies, they're fine, I like the movies, whatever. But if you're a big Harry Potter fan, I can see that game absolutely hit. Outside of that game had no audience, but it still sold like crazy. And because it sold like crazy, it should have been at least considered. However, it was not considered because people didn't like the politics of J.K. Rowling, even though she agrees with these people like 99% of the time. She has one disagreement with the type of people that are running the Game Awards, and yet, for some weird reason, they have to absolutely excommunicate her game and her properties from everything. So, seeing that, what would the games be that would potentially go up for Game of the Year out of this year? I mean, the games that pop out into my mind that could be considered, not that will win, but they could be considered, games like Power World, Helldivers, the two that blew up earlier in the year. Obviously, Space Marines 2 could be in the running. You could have things like Astrobot. You could have things like Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong, though, I don't think will actually be considered. I think that because of all the hit piece articles that they put out there, I think that they are not even going to put it in the running for Game of the Year, which is absolutely insane. And that right there is why I think this game has the potential to win. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I think that Dragon Age The Veilguard, not because of its gameplay, not because of anything innovative that it's going to do, and not because of its story, is going to get Game of the Year. But I think this game is going to hit Game of the Year simply because of the political injections that they put into it. Which is sad to say, but I guess everything in this life boils down to people's personal politics now. There's no objectively looking at a game anymore and saying this is good or this is bad or no, we have to have the knee-jerk reactions. We have to make sure that, we are on the right side of history, so to speak, when we're voting for it. Overall, I can't imagine that Dragon Age The Veilguard is going to do anything crazy interesting. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 won last year, and that basically took the Bioware formula and mastered it. From what I've heard from people who played it, I've not played Baldur's Gate 3. Again, talking about political injection, although a lot of people are kind of talking with me who even believe a lot of the same politics that I do, and they're like, dude, just play Baldur's Gate 3. So we'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I will one of these days. I don't know. But a lot of people are talking with me about it, and they're like, dude, come on, get over it. Just play the game. It's fun. That being said, will Dragon Age The Veilguard, wow, that was a long pause there. Lost my train of thought. Will Dragon Age The Veilguard actually pull it off? Is this game going to be as good as Baldur's Gate 3 was? Is it going to pave a new path? Is it going to reinvigorate? More importantly, is it going to save BioWare's ass? because right now EA and Bioware need this thing to hit. So apparently the pre-order sales are meeting EA's expectations, which the question is are those expectations going to be enough to save Bioware from the massive flops that they're coming off of? I don't know. This is going to be something for us to see. I will say this. I think depending on what Dragon Age The Veilguard does as far as Game of the Year is concerned and as far as sales is concerned, is going to tell us what the future of the games world is going to be for the next 5 years or so. Sad to say it, but I really think that's where we're at. Obviously, these things, you can't just turn them around in a day. But things like Black Myth Wukong, I don't think that message got sent. All I think that people heard from Black Myth Wukong was, how do we get into the Chinese market? That's all they heard. They didn't hear how good the game was. They didn't hear how players were reacting to it. All they saw was 20 million sales in a month or something. Like, it was ridiculous how much that game sold. And I think all they're saying is, how do they get into the Chinese market? This may lead to a time where AAA developers are, in fact, developing games. They're going to have the Western audience phrased games, and they're going to have the Eastern audience phrased games, which basically they're going to release 2 versions of the same game, but one that removes a lot of the political pandering they do in the West, and similar to what they do with like the Marvel movies and what a lot of American movies do, is they pull stuff out that, you know, the Chinese government does not want, and then they'll be allowed to sell over in China. This, again, is going to mark, I think, a definitive time period, because we have had some bangers this year. I actually had to pause the download. I'm downloading Space Marines 2 right now because me and my buddy are going to play it this weekend, and we're going to have some fun like we used to back in the day playing Halo. So let me know what you guys think down below. Dragon Age The Veilguard, whether you like it or hate it, think about this objectively. Is this thing going to hit Game of the Year? I mean, is it? Sad to say, I think these people are such political shills, they will vote this thing into Game of the Year only because of politics. That's my thought on this, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you guys want to hear what else I have to say, maybe check out my other Dragon Age video right over here, as well as some other videos. And let me know, because that one, I kind of talked about the motivation in the modern audience and why these people have such a problem telling tales that inspire people. So as always, thank you so much for checking out A Drink with Crazy. And until next time, cheers, everybody.